Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Wiz podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Wiz, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a mixed martial artist, a bare knuckle boxer. He's the one and only Jared Mayhem Warren. Jared, what's going on?
Not much, buddy. Just recovering after a good workout this afternoon. I got another one this evening, so I'm just preparing for that.
Yeah, so how was it? And it's so cool that you joined us like so soon after your workout, but we were kind of talking off air about like armchair quarterbacking and everything like that. So I'm assuming that workout didn't consist of being on the couch and eating a bag of Doritos, right?
Unfortunately not. That would be much more enjoyable. But no, I was out in the sun and freaking getting after it. It was not easy, that's for sure.
So, not to divulge a bit of game planning or whatever, but like, for Jared Warren, what is like a usual, you're in Florida, right?
I am, yeah, I'm down in the Tampa area.
So what does that look like? Is that like a beach run? Are you doing kind of like, not the Vision Quest, but like, I want to say like Hulk Hogan promo in WCW of 1990s, like him and Brutus Beefcake running down the beach and like, I don't know, maybe?
I wish it was like, I don't know, I'm 30 minutes from the beach, but no, most of my training is less dramatic, unfortunately. It's just regular stuff in the gym, grinding it out. Sometimes it's outdoors like today, but most of the time it's either in the boxing gym or in the regular gym, just, doing hit cardio, calisthenics, all that stuff, whatever to just improve the game.
No, I love it, man. It's the plight and the times of a professional athlete, which I gotta ask, were you, because you're athletic now, the picture that you sent me to post about this dang podcast, man, it looked like you were a He-Man action figure, so it kind of lets me believe that maybe you had athletic endeavors before you entered the world of combat sports. Am I right, or?
Just nothing more than being just a really active kid. Me and my friends, we always just played outdoors. We made up any kind of sport we could do in the neighborhood, whether it was wrestling, boxing, football, basketball, just always doing something. We wasn't really care about we're all competitive with each other and wanted to win, but we didn't really care about necessarily how good we were. We were just staying active, having fun. But fighting is the first thing that I really competed in, like as an adult. I played on some teams like baseball and stuff like that growing up, but as far as like, growing into manhood and stuff, I started out with kickboxing as an amateur. All my amateur fights were kickboxing and like a mix of like kickboxing, Muay Thai, and some of it they call like international rules, kind of somewhere in between. But that was my basis. Just striking, kickboxing. Fortunately, I did well out of it, man. I became an amateur world champ back in 2007, and kind of just made a transition from there into MMA first, and then and now a couple years ago, once they made Bare Knuckle legal, that's all I do now. Because MMA is cool and it's it's always going to be around, but coming from that striking background, this is more what I like. Jiu-jitsu is awesome, and it works, and I've lost to people from getting caught in jiu-jitsu chokes and stuff, but that doesn't mean I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't enjoy the act of grappling like most people do. So I'm probably more the exception than the norm, you know what I mean? Everybody I know, actually, who does jiu-jitsu, they love it. That's their first and only, like, they got Gracie tattoos on them and, hashtag jiu-jitsu for life, whatever. They all love it. But for me personally, I fight because I want to, and if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do what I enjoy. And for me, it's striking. So once bare knuckle became a thing, like it got me excited again, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that. That's what I'm gonna do now. So
No, I love that you mentioned that because yes, of course, like that was actually the reason why I started jiu-jitsu. Now, I mean, I had grown up a fan of pro wrestling, but mainly the Hart family and hearing stories of like Stu Hart back in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and having like 12 kids, him and his wife Helen, and all of the boys became wrestlers, all of the girls married wrestlers, and he had this. The basement was called the dungeon, where he would just put catch holes or sugar holes, from a era gone by on wrestlers and of both football players, bodybuilders, just make everybody scream uncle, right? But that's one facet of what combat sports is. And pre 1990 in Royce Gracie and the Gracies coming over, the Machados coming over, like we didn't really have that too much in North America. You had Muhammad Ali, boxer, Bruce Lee, who ended up getting appreciated literally after his death, right? Because he wasn't accepted because of the time or whatever. But Jeet Kune Do was a lot of what we saw in like Enter the Dragon and everything was striking, karate, kung fu, all striking, not so much grappling, right? And look no further than Pat H.D. Barry, who is at one time one of like the baddest heavyweights to ever walk the face of this earth, and he got taken down and choked out, and he was like, screw this, I'm retired from MMA, and I'm gonna just do kickboxing, and did that all the way up until he started coaching his fiance Thug Rose Namajunas. Hey, and she's like the current strawweight champion of the world.
yeah, how about it? I get it, man. Yeah, I just like I said, I mean, there's no question about it. It works, and I mean, it's a badass martial art and sport. But again, if you're doing something because you love it, and then, I mean, even though you love fighting, it's still hard. I don't care who you are. It still takes a lot out of you. The training and just to step in the ring is a lot, because most of us have, real jobs aside from competing, whether you get paid to fight or not. Most of us have real jobs otherwise. And so if I'm going to put the time and the effort for that, I want it to be something that, I truly enjoy. So again, I'm more the exception, I would say, but for me, I just, I like. There must have been. There could have been like a lizard running by, and they heard it, and they just got insane. Stop, please. Stop. But yeah, so now that I like to punch, I like to kick. Bare knuckle is it's fun, man. It's entertaining, and it's growing fast. It's getting a lot of traction with it, and I'm excited to see how far it goes.
You know what I love about it? Because again, you're somebody that has tried it all: MMA, boxing, kickboxing, right? Those are how you kind of came up. But you tried everything and kind of figured out what works. And here's the fact of the matter, especially with like the To the Line series and BKFC, the main show. There's more money to be had, for a fighter than there are at the same level of a regional MMA, kickboxing, or even the lower tier UFC. Like,
yeah, I think you're definitely right. I know from personal experience, like, definitely, reality is everybody gets paid a difference on, how famous they are, how long they've been around, and how much they've climbed the ladder. Now, bare knuckle being new, a lot of us had the same amount of fights, more or less, in one another, but everybody had to come from somewhere, right? So everybody that does bare knuckle now had to either be a boxer, a kickboxer, or an MMA fighter. It just had to come from somewhere. You can't just, I've been doing pro, bare knuckle my whole life. Like, I don't know, maybe if you grew up in the streets of, England or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will say, from my own personal experience and being a guy who's not on the famous side, I've made more money as, like, let's say, a lesser known pro bare knuckle fighter as I did as a lesser known pro MMA fighter, for sure.
That's facts.
Yeah, so they definitely, they do take care of us well. So no complaints there.
I love it. I love it. And somebody that can attest to that is Anthony DJ Tony Orozco, the DJ, the official DJ for BKFC. And he's like 100 across the board. And he was just on a little bit earlier. So shout out to DJ Tony. But yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing, especially for people that dedicate their life, to this, right? Well, I don't care if it's 6 months, 3 years, 3 months, whatever. That dedication that you have to do, training and cutting weight and everything like that, it's an arduous task. The money is great, right? But also the respect. I have had the fortunate instance of having a lot of fighters that have fought for BKFC and some of their affiliate promotions, and the treatment that they get from Scott Burke, who runs the Hall of Fame, or David Feldman, and all of the other people that are in it. It's just amazing to see that sort of respect and candor for a sport that's relatively, in North America, only had its resurgence in the last couple of years.
Yeah, man, definitely. I would say there is respect in the sense of, I think maybe because people can kind of relate to a bare knuckle at some point. You can watch boxing and MMA, and you do know that it's tough, but maybe if you've never tried that sport, you don't know what it's like to be hit with those kind of gloves and this and that. But most people, at some point in life, have probably been in a fight, street fight or something, and have probably gotten punched bare knuckle, whether it's playing around or actually in a fight. And it's not that fun, and it's definitely easy to damage one another. So when people kind of put that together, like, wow, you're really putting yourself in front of probably everybody and then a lot of people around the world that you don't know, to either look really good or really bad. They usually give you a little bit of props just because they know, like, man, it's a brutal sport. Honestly, I mean, you can slice it any way you want. It's still the most brutal sport out there, at least in America. Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I haven't seen anything else in this country that's going to be tougher.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you because, like, I know there's like I know it's somewhere in like Southeast Asia they have like Lethway, right?
Yeah,
and Lethway,
that was the one that came to mind too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, not here in North America, and for whatever reason, Lethway hasn't taken a hold or a strong suit here in North America. But I would say Lethway, even though there's different tactics and rules and whatever, the brutality aspect of it, I think they're neck and neck or knuckle on knuckle.
Yeah, I've seen a few different Lethway fights, and now some of the ones I've seen, they are bare knuckle on top of like the other kinds of strikes they're allowed to do. But then I've also seen ones that they have their hands and knuckles fully wrapped. They're not wearing gloves, but they're fully gauze and taped up, and then they're allowed to do the other things. So I would say the ones that do it bare knuckle, plus you're allowed to elbow, knee, and kick. That one can supersede. But again, like you said, it is kind of isolated to that part of the world right now. And I'm sure if they bring it over, there's you guys that would jump on it. I would actually be happy to do something like that because coming from the kickboxing background, like I would be down. But otherwise, yeah, as far as things that are allowed and legal right now in the States, definitely the most brutal in my opinion.
No, 100%. And I love that you say it. And that's, you being able to kind of step in and taking whatever, arises, which is amazing. Which, the fact that you didn't grow up as like an athlete, you didn't, you played, to an extent baseball, but baseball to now where you are in bare knuckle and fighting for the BKFC, that's just like, a weightlifter, can a weightlifter outrun a marathon runner? It's just, they're different things. They're athletes, but it's different, right? So, like, what motivated you to kind of, like, take on this particular avenue and task?
I was definitely scrappy kid growing up. not a fight starter, not a bully, anything like that. But I kind of was raised with that mentality that you don't start fights, but you finish them. And I kind of I always had that. Um, Always very competitive, and I think I was definitely a sore loser. Like now with things that don't matter that much, I can chill. Like if I lose a game of pool, that's fine. I don't mind. But back then, I don't care what I lost at. I'd get freaking angry, and I'd be like, well, yeah, you may have beat me at tacky sack, but I wish you were fighting me because I could definitely beat you at that. What I mean? So at some point, I just kind of made a turn. I'm like, well, why don't I try competing at it? You know what I mean? And that way, I don't really have excuse for losing. But yeah, I tried my hand on. I didn't have any family that were like any kind of professional fighters before me. But yeah, like I said, fortunately, I did well, especially like I said, in the amateurs coming up and getting to fight and win a world title and such.
Which I would love that you mentioned family, because what was your family's reaction to this? Now, obviously, having a dust up or fisticuffs happen on the schoolyard or what have you, getting called into the principal's office, that's one thing. That's, males of a certain age, that's just what we did, right? But, I mean, once you kind of made the switch to end up fighting, amateur and professionally, like, what was the reaction?
I guess my closer loved ones, they were supportive. Like when I was first into fighting, all they could think about were like, oh, you're gonna do this? Like, well, what if you lose? And to me, like there wasn't even like a thought in my head. I was like, what do you mean, what if I lose? Like, I'm not gonna lose. Not in a cocky way, but I had it so set in my head that I win. Like if I train like I'm supposed to and put enough time in, like I'm supposed to win. And I did. And I had a good undefeated streak for a while. But yeah, so they were supportive and they would like to come and watch and stuff. And then I do remember like when I lost my first MMA fight, my parents were there, and I'm sure like Bob. I think anybody that you care about, you see him getting hit, even if they're not actually hurt, you see him get hit, you see him bleed a little bit, it probably bothers you. But afterwards, I'm just like I'm fine, Mom. I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like, not a big deal. But they would come and enjoy it and support me nonetheless. I've had a good group of friends and a few solid family members that would like to come and watch whenever they could.
I love it. Oh man, you're a lot better than me. Because then you're like, oh, I'm okay, Mom. Like, whatever. I'd be like, I'm okay. Wait, who are you again? I just, or just like, get some ketchup, get packages from backstage, and you're like, oh, I'm great. I'm feeling great. Like I would just put it all on.
Yeah, and I think most fighters will tell you like. Whatever injuries you sustain most of the time, like you don't really, you almost never notice it in the fight. Maybe the week after you're gonna have some aches and pains. But most of the time, a lot of it's a result of your mental aspect. Like, did you win or not? I always say, I was like, when you win, nothing hurts. I don't care what got broke during the fight, nothing hurts because you're on such a high. You know what I mean? But it's like when you lose, fuck, everything hurts because you're like, and I have a loss. You know what I mean? What was the point?
Fuck everything. Like that's that's truth bombs. That's truth bombs. Now, fighting is all about opportunity. Trading and everything to get to a place where you have the opportunity to ply your trade and punch people in the face. But Alex Ramirez has an interesting take because he said you should be making movies and working alongside Jason Statham, bro. You're gonna bang up that pretty face, which I mean, you look like damn He-Man. Like you look like a He-Man action figure. Have you ever been approached to do stunt work or movie work or what have you? Especially being in the Tampa area, the WWE is doing residency there. Like, has there ever been?
No, nothing like that. I mean, that sounds awesome in theory, and there was a guy actually on your side of the country there in California that we had a mutual friend, and like a girl I went to high school with, and she moved out to California, and she did kind of like some like some B movies, you know what I mean? And this guy, I guess he does a lot of horror films, and he kind
Yeah.
of he hit me up and he's like, hey, he's like, could you be interested in doing this? It was like part of like a series he was doing, and I was like, dude, yeah, I would like to. It sounds awesome. But I'll be honest with you, I was like, I'd probably be a freaking terrible actor. You know what I mean? Like we're all like feel like we're I don't know like funny or just whatever when you're with your friends, but then like when you're supposed to say something specific when you're on camera, you're like very like robotic a lot of times, and it just comes off as fake. I'm like, that's probably how it would be. I'd probably be terrible. And then like he gave me some more info on it, but it never came to fruition. But no, that's not quite in the cards for me. But I do appreciate the thought.
Yeah. Well, you say that now, but you just let out the cat out of the bag that you've never seen the amazing horror film that is Spice World, the movie made by the Spice Girls at the height of their fame. And if you think you can't act, I mean, there was a lady giving birth, like all clean. The baby was clean, and it was like 25 pounds. Like.
And they somehow still made money, right?
Just saying, a paycheck is a paycheck. Whether that be a movie, whether that be a fight, I'm just saying, using your talents and seeing where it goes.
If I could be a random character that fights in a movie, you know what I mean? Like, who's just like one of the opponents for whoever the star is that's up and coming, like, that'd be fun just to say you earn it, you know what I mean? Or just a guy in the background of like a Marvel film who gets shot and dies. That was fun. I mean, we all like Marvel films, right?
I mean, it's worked. It's worked. I mean, like, yeah, Alex mentioned Jason Statham. I don't know, like, the first half of his career, that I ever heard him talk. I mean, Dave Bautista from the WWE and took an MMA fight and whatever, and now he's Drax the Destroyer. He was a Bond villain and said, I think the only words of a 3-hour movie was like, oh shit, before he gets blown up or something. So, I mean.
What's funny is, just because Stadium in particular, I was at the fire station yesterday, and one of his movies was on, and I was kind of watching the background. I was like, it would be like entertaining, because I was like, most of the people that are like Statham, they more or less play the same character every movie. You know what I mean? They're a little bit, brooding, confident, and then they just whip everybody back. So I was like, if they had a movie where he was like, kind of like, I don't know, a little bit of like a bitch boy, and got like bullied and pushed around, like it would be entertaining. Because, you know what I mean? Like, just to see him in a totally different role where he's not a tough guy, I was like, I would watch that.
Yeah, I think a part of that would be like, you're a casting director and you gotta tell Jason Statham, who's a legit like black belt in like 3 different martial arts. Like, there are stories in England where Statham, before Hollywood and everything, like there'll be a drunken bar fight and he's the only guy that walks out, right? So I'm all like, no, like you're probably never gonna see like Jason Statham in like The Tooth Fairy or The Pacifier, like Vin Diesel and The Rock respectively, because I don't think anybody is going to tell Jason Statham, hey, put on some wings and a tutu. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and that would probably be a little much too. But I don't know. I feel like if there was a movie where he's, I don't know, sitting at a bar or something, and somebody like walks by and smacks him in the back of the head, and he just kind of has to like get nervous and take it, like it'd just be a whole different view on a character that we're used to seeing all the time.
I like it. I mean, you never know. We're putting that up to the ether. So, casting directors, I'm just saying, if you need a guy, Jared Warren's your guy. I'm just saying. Right? Now, how long did it take to train, like you're committing, like I'm going to be a fighter, and then taking the first fight? How much time was there in between?
I started really training. Like I did some martial arts on and off growing up, but it was kind of like one of those things that like Taekwondo, stuff like that really is not geared directly towards real fighting. But I did that a little bit growing up, but as far as like, yeah, it was really time to. I want to compete. I want to fight. I was like, I think I was 18 and a half or so, and my first amateur fight I was 20. So I trained for about a year and a half, but it was like I wasn't. I was working full time, but I wasn't in college at the time, so it was really like all I did and all I thought about aside from being at work. You know what I mean? I just like if I'd leave work, I'd go directly to the gym. I'd train every day I was off. You know, every day. And it's just because I enjoyed it. I really did. Like everything was like so new and fun, and you know, to be able to get better. You know what I mean? Because when you first start out, all you have is just like, you know, your attitude, and you don't know anything about fighting at all. And I just remember like, you know, going into a gym, telling the coach that, hey, I would like to be a kickboxer. And I saw like kickboxing on his window, you know, and I was like, my first question, because this was like, what was it? Taibo was really big at the time, and you know, like the cardio kickboxing, that was like kind of right at its peak. So I went and I was like, now, do you teach real kickboxing, or do you teach, you know, cardio kickboxing? He's like, no, he's like, I've had a few, you know, I've trained a few world champs, this and that. And I was like, oh, awesome. I was like, well, if you'll have me, I'd love to learn. I'd love to train. And so, yeah, I started teaching me and all that. And I remember, like, first couple sparring sessions, like, it was real. Like, guys they're not going all out on you, but I just remember they weren't really taking it easy. I mean, like, I was leaving with bloody nose, black eye kind of thing. But come to find out later on, a lot of it, and not all gyms are like this, but a lot of it at that time was like a test. Like, let's see if this kid's going to quit and not come back because he got a little dinged up, and see if he really wants to fight or not. But I was just like, you know, again, I still had that, you know, that sore loser side of me where I was like, well, you know, you are, you know, kicking my butt today, but after a few months, I'm going to get you. You know what I mean? And I kept coming back, and like actually, and it kind of turned out that way. Now, not everybody in the gym was a competitive fighter. Some of them were, you know, some of them did in the past, and you know, still had good skills and all that. But just kept coming back, and over the course of like a couple of years, I actually did surpass them and got to where I could, you know, beat them. But you know, to me, again, that was all I thought about. These guys probably had other stuff going on in their lives, didn't really care about it, but I just did it as a hobby or, you know, whatever. But yeah, at that time I was just like fully gung ho. I had a lot of free time on my hands, so that's just all I did. So, yeah.
I like it. Now, wait, you mean to tell me, like, the cardio kickboxing, like, you can't just walk up to somebody and go, and that doesn't, like, I thought that's a KO. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, you probably have enough cardio to last, but as soon as someone sees that you have no idea what you're doing, probably going to put you on your butt, whether you have training or not. At that point, you've lost all credibility.
oh no, that's some of the craziness that I will see. So I love the internet, right? Because like you've got like Master T-Gram, the Instagram account, or McDojo Life and whatever, and see these, you know, like, I'm sorry, I'm a portly son of a bitch, but there's other portly son of a bitches that are like, and these like fit guys are flying across the room and whatever. I'm like, that's not. No, that's not.
Yeah, you can't always. I mean, nowadays you really can't ever judge a book by its cover. You know, I mean, it's I don't know. Fighting's gotten so huge. You don't know who knows what anymore. So it's always good to not be that instigator or bully and trying to start stuff with anybody. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah, like I my dad taught me, but I'm kind of figuring out like a lot of people, and I'm glad for it. Their parents taught them like the toughest person in the room is not the one that's like, I'm gonna beat everyone's ass. It's like the person in the corner. Yeah, which I'm almost describing Jason Statham. Good God.
It's true, man. I would say like in my own experiences, like most guys that are loud, and even if they are not just doing it for attention, but they are trying to start some kind of fight, or at least it appears that way. They're usually not. They usually don't even want to fight. They usually want to intimidate you into not fighting. That's their whole goal. And then if you or whoever they're trying doesn't react to that and doesn't walk away, then they almost always find a way out of it. I would say like 9 out of 10 times they find a way to leave before anything else happens. They're like, well, the intimidating part didn't work, and now my game's over. I got nothing.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But I mean, those things are fun because you're just like, I don't know how you think that works, man. It's just like, I mean, not that. Okay, so like one of my favorite clips is the nun. I mean, not the nun, the monk getting KO'd. And there's several different ones, right? Where like the monkey's all whoo and whooshing and like whatever, and then he just like, and he's like bleeding with his head, just like and dude just opens up like a 8 whatever, and like probably 6 punches into 8-punch combo, Monk is out, but he's just, the lights are on, nobody's home, it's just whatever, and he just takes 2 before he splinters, and I'm like, it's almost anticlimactic because I'm all like, you're a monk, like levitate and some shit, like answer the 8, like levitate or whatever.
Where's the dragon that's supposed to like come out of your hand? I've seen those videos where the guy he just like flicks his hand at his students and they go flying around. You've seen those, right? And then finally like some MMA fighter talked him into an actual like competition, and the dude, they said go. He literally punched him in the face one time. The dude held his nose and was done. You know what I mean? Like it was like, well, against reality just set in.
Yeah, reality. Reality is a fun one. So, obviously, you're training for a fight or what have you, but your first fight, were there nerves? Was there, because essentially that's like your test, right? Like training is your study. If you're looking at like a collegiate kind of whatever, your training is your studying, and your fight is the test, right? Everything that you learned in your studies, you get to apply. But it's like the SATs with PUNCHs, and it's in front of everybody. Like it's almost more like a decathlon of sorts, right? So, what was the first fight like?
It was great, man. I did feel so prepared that I really, to me it's like I'm gonna win as sure as the sun's gonna rise tomorrow. I felt that good about it. And again, like maybe it was because I was so young. Maybe I was just like an overconfident kid at the time. But still, yeah. I remember the way it went down. Is, I'm going into it, so I'm 0-0 first fight. The guy that I'm 6'1". I'm a left-handed dude, and I was supposed to fight a guy that was 0-1, 5'7", and right-handed. Well, he didn't show up to weigh-ins, and I had been training forever. That's again all I thought about. There was one other guy who his opponent didn't show up, and he was like 20, 25 pounds heavier than me, and he was 6 feet tall, also left-handed, and wanted them. So pretty much the opposite of what I was planning for. And again, he was out of my weight class by a lot, but the promoter was like, here's the situation. Either you guys can fight each other or you don't get to fight. I go, oh, we're fighting. I was like, I sold probably like at least 100 tickets. I've been telling all my friends and everybody I could to come see. I was like, we're fighting. And I won, thankfully. And it was just kind of like, again, the confidence in your training of what you do. Like weight classes do matter to an extent. That's why they had them, but it's not everything, because the big guy would always win. We see that's not always the case. So it kind of gave me like an extra confident boost. Like if I can beat somebody a little bigger, a little more experienced, then I kind of carried that with me.
I love it. I love it. That's almost like Japan, like Ryzen, like Pride, like a sumo versus like this like 155-pound dude. It's one of those like freak show fucking fights. I love it. I love it. But also the fact like your original opponent, right? You talk about weight matters, right? Well, your original opponent was 5'7", you're 6'1", and it's so crazy, right? Like how in the same weight division you could be cut differently. There might be just like a portly, built like a fire hydrant mother trucker, right? And then there could be like this damn Adonis or whatever, and it's still 155 pounds, 185 pounds. Whatever. It's just there.
Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite memories from back in like the amateur days was my coach took me and a handful of other fighters to it was like a tournament. They called it continuous kickboxing. So it wasn't an actual like kickboxing match. It was like a floor ring, and you basically like you fought one round, and then the winner went on through the bracket and fought another person for one round. So it was like it didn't count for your record, and there wasn't weight classes. It was just like 18 and up is the weight class. Now, most of the guys were like in that 180, 190, walk around. Nowadays, I walk around at 195. When I was an amateur, I was like a thin kid. I used to walk around at like 150, 152. I was like a tall ring kid. And then there was one guy at this tournament who was like, if I was a guess, he was probably about 320. Like same height as me, but just big, And he was like walking around like me and everybody. And they told him, the guys running it, they go, listen, I know there's no technical weight classes, but they're like, you're too big to fight these guys. You know what I mean? So they were gonna like tell him to leave basically. But I was kind of like overhearing it, and so I leaned out. I was like, I'll fight him. And they looked at me like I'm kidding because again I'm like the skinniest, lightest guy there. And they're like, what kind of experience do you have? And I was like, I'm 3-0 in kickboxing. They're like, okay, man. They're like, if you want to, you guys are up first. And I'm like, so we fought. And to me, like the advantage of it, I was like, it's one round. It was I don't remember if it was a 2 or 3 minute round, but it was one round. And you don't have to say anything in the gas tank. There's no holding back. There's no like, let me like work my jab. And that's kind of what the guy thought I was going to do. Since I was so much smaller, that I was going to try and like stick and move. As soon as they said go, I just busted him square in his face like as hard as I could. His nose started bleeding. And when he like, looks up from, feeling the blood, I hit him again and again. He like bulldozed me into the wall. They're like, break, they break us up. As soon as the ref moved, I busted him in the nose again. That was just like my target, you know what I mean? And then I beat the guy, and it was just like, it was just fun because it was a self-challenge, you know what I mean? And I don't know. And I also knew I was like, well, if I lose, no one's gonna like care because again, the guy's like twice my size. So it's like I feel like I had nothing to lose. So in that situation, it was like the perfect time to try something like that. So I went after it, and it worked out that way. But again, that was kind of like one of my more fun memories from fighting back in the day.
I love it. Now, when that particular matchmaker or promoter was asking you, like, what experience do you have, I would have said, or not even said anything. I would have just started continuously kicking shit. It's like, oh, that trash can, and just whatever. Like, yo, I'm a black belt in continuous kickboxing. Yeah.
You start breaking everything in the room. They're like, well, this person's obviously like I guess it's okay.
Oh, that's great. No, but I mean, even to get where we are, right, with like MMA and kickboxing and leftway and bare knuckle boxing, right? There's these like iterations that have to, like, there's these stops that kind of happen along the way. Like Uriah Hall in the UFC now, he fought for like Chuck Norris's like promotion, like combat kickboxing promotion, where it was just like they were fighting in a bowl. Like it was like a square bowl.
World Combat League.
Yes, that's it.
I tried out for that actually. Yeah, because long time ago, actually, I was still amateur, and Steve Thompson was um, a newer pro kickboxer at the time, and I got to fight on the same card as it. It was a pro am card, and it was in his hometown. I want to say it was I think
The
it's
Carolinas, right?
Greenville. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say South Carolina, Greenville or Simpsonville, one of those. And yeah, I got put on the same card. Um, but yeah, so he went on to do that, and when the second season was supposed to be underway soon, they were holding tryouts. So me and my coach and one of the other fighters went down to Miami to do tryouts, and it was like the tryouts were ridiculous because it was pretty much just fighting other guys that wanted to try out and see how. And they're like, guys, this is just sparring. We're not gonna like try and kill each other. Blah blah. And everybody's like, okay, yeah. I mean, you're fighting for a paid spot on a TV show more or less, and you're like, yeah, everybody's gonna try and kill each other. So I fought two different guys, and first one I knocked out, and the second one I just beat on like points and technique basically. And I thought in my head I was like, oh, I'm in, and then they like contacted, they're like, well, and at the time I didn't have any titles yet. They're like, well, we're looking for people that are kind of already like a big name, and just I'm like, why do you guys have to even drive down at the time? You know what I mean? More or less, not a huge loss because I think it only went 2 seasons before the whole sport got canceled because it just didn't really take off like they wanted to. But the idea of it seemed cool at first, but yeah, I mean, MMA was on that climb at the time,
Yeah.
right around that same year or two, so that shut down really quick.
That's crazy. I mean, like, but everybody forgets like the acronyms, right? That MMA represents. It's mixed martial arts. You are truly a mixed martial artist, like kickboxing, MMA, Bare Knuckle, right? This iteration of the World Combat, like you've done a lot in your career. Good God, do you ever look back and go like, shit, man, that's fucking cool?
And I do, and that's kind of the whole thing behind it. It's just kind of like, feeling like you live, feel like you've done something a little outside the norm, and just like some cool memories. Like I've got to travel to different states to fight. I got to travel like outside the country a couple times to fight, and it's always fun trips, and you go with people, and you meet a lot of new people along the way. And yeah, I mean, that's the greatest part, is just having those memories. So you can look back and have all these freaking scars on your face, and you're like, oh, I got this one. You know what I mean? And yeah, again, I never expected to get rich. Never expected to be famous. Definitely not. But I have enjoyed all the fights along the way for sure.
I love it. Now, obviously, this current iteration of you in BKFC, right? I think it's kind of fun because the two guys that you fought in the squared circle are also friends of the show. One, Brian Maxwell, and Josh D-Day Dyer. Like it's so fun. First off, like, how does your introduction and inclusion to BKFC happen? Does your team get maybe a call from, David Feldman and his crew? Do you try out? What is the course of action?
So I got to shift here to plug the old phone into the guy on me. But yeah, so after fighting MMA for a bit, I had I took a little bit of a hiatus in fighting. I was kind of like more so focused on basically my career, firefighting, all that stuff. I took a break from it, and then like when Bare Knuckle came around, kind of got excited again. Sorry, I'm off camera here for 1 second. And so one of my old coaches, excuse me 1 second.
You're
Okay,
fine.
I'm back. I promise.
Yeah, you're good.
Um, so one of my old coaches, he had he had a couple of fighters that fought on BKFC 6, which was here in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I saw some of that footage, and I also had other friends that they actually like were just fight fans that went to the fights just to see what it was all about. And they were telling me like, dude, have you seen this? Like that crap is entertaining. And so I started looking it up, and it was, and I got like super excited. And so when BKFC number 8 was rolling around, it was coming back to Tampa, and my coach, or former coach at the time, had posted about it. He was like, we got 3 fighters going to be on this card. Come out and support. And this was on like Facebook, and I commented on like, got room for one more. So he ended up like contacting. I don't know if it was Feldman directly or if it was Nate Shookins, their matchmaker, and told him like, hey, we got a guy who would like to fight this and that, and got fairly extensive record, because I don't think they want to take people with too few fights, right off the bat. But they were I was fortunate enough that they just they're like, yeah, we got a guy, and they were talking about Max at the time. Like, I think they had kind of scouted him, gave him like a multi-fight contract and stuff, and they're like, what weight class are you going to fight at? And at the time, I was like, well, I walk around at 195, so I'd like to fight at 195, because I did not want to starve myself. I didn't want to sweat out in the sauna. I just wanted to be healthy and fight. You know what I mean? Like I used to cut weight like everybody else, but I kind of was over that part of life. And so yeah, they gave me a shot, and Brian's an awesome guy. I got nothing bad to say about him. We had a good fight. We had a fun fight. And I just was fortunate enough to come out on top that night. So
I
after
like
that,
it.
they gave me
Yeah.
like a free fight contract. So yeah, so I got to stick with him for the time being, anyways.
No, and it's cool, right? You took like a sabbatical away from the sport, right? And you kind of was like, if I'm good, right? Because we're seeing it a lot. Look at no further than the Diego Sanchez kind of situation, or Cowboy Cerrone in MMA, right? Where guys and girls, they don't know when to kind of call it a career, like
Yeah.
and the fact that you're able to do it, one, on your own accord, and then also find something that is like literally like motivationally stimulating, that you had your teammates fighting on, your coach knew the atmosphere, and then just your friends as spectators seeing like, this is a cool thing. It was like 3 in 1 accord. It was almost like a perfect fit that this would be the next phase of your career on your own terms.
Yeah, dude, that first fight back was like honestly like one of the best nights of my life, because again I had taken a long hiatus, and you're right, I was kind of in that mindset where I was like, I'm probably done fighting, and I think a lot of that was like I did enjoy MMA, but again I didn't enjoy the grappling side. I wasn't like all in. It wasn't like all I wanted to do all the time type thing. So I kind of took a break from it. But yeah, that style got me excited. And then it was in my hometown. A bunch of my friends, a lot of guys from the fire department, they all came out to support me and got loud and rowdy and stuff. And it was just awesome night, man. I had so much fun. And of course, I got rehooked, definitely. So that was awesome.
That's amazing, and to come back and in this new arena, this new venture, and to come back with a win again. Bare Knuckle is a tough dude. Like that had to put the cherry on top of the proverbial cake.
Yeah, like I said, if I would have went back after such a long time and then I would have lost, I probably wouldn't have been here tonight. But I don't know, like I could have worked in my favor that I did have such a long break, because one, I didn't have any built up injuries, you know what I mean, because I've been off long enough to heal from everything. And a lot of my fights, back in the day, they weren't. Not everything was on YouTube. You know what I mean? So they probably didn't have any footage of me at the time. Like now, I don't care what you do, everything's gonna be out there. But they probably didn't have much to go off of. I had a little bit to go off with Brian. I was able to watch his MMA fights and stuff. But even if they would have, like this is kind of a very different sport in the fact that it's the only one that you can't fully practice like you play, because like if you're gonna do the jiu-jitsu tournament, you roll as hard as you want to roll. If you're gonna box, you box, kickbox, etc. But you can't just go in the gym like, all right, well, let's have bare knuckles and spar. I mean, I don't care how light you're trying to go, you're gonna cut each other open. Someone's gonna break their hands. I mean, whatever. So you can train similar to an extent, but we all know it's different. And so it's like everybody's first time is just like when you're on stage and when it counts. So it's kind of like going into a freaking, like you're gonna be doing something on an audition on the stage, and you don't know the words to play. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, oh, let's just see what happens. So, yeah, like I said, it happened to work out in my favor, thankfully. But yeah, Brian is a good dude, and he's stayed active with it, and I'm sure they'll keep him, coming back, because ultimately the promoters, the president, all that, they're all good dudes. I don't think give a crap who wins or loses. They just want exciting fights. So you can have a winning record and be a boring fighter. Actually, like what I'm starting to quote right now is kind of some backstage stuff. Like when we're in the rules meeting in the back, Feldman will say like, listen, if you're that guy that likes to kind of go out there and like dance around and showboat and like, kind of run away, he's like, I don't care if you win on points or whatever. He's like, we're not going to bring you back. But he's like, if you go out there and you throw your nuts out there, you give it your all, and you fight hard, you put on a show, I don't care if you lose, we will bring you back. So ultimately, they want exciting fights. So I know Brian doesn't have a winning record right now, but obviously, like, he keeps coming back. He likes to fight. So I wish him the best, and I'm sure they'll keep him around.
I love it. Now, obviously, I mean, for me, in terms of fighting relations, in terms of pay, I think BKFC, right? Because sometimes you have good pay, not a great relationship with the office, or a great relationship with the office and not great pay, right? So the two in one accord, I think BKFC is the best combat sports promotion in terms of that, in terms of fighter pay and fighter relations. So you're in this run of your career. Might even say it might be the last run, because again, you don't have any problems of stepping away or what have you. Do you have any expectations on what this next run means?
I don't know about necessarily expectations, but I lost my last fight, and nobody likes that. But the only upside is, and I've heard a lot of other fighters say this too, is when you lose, you learn. You find out, you're like, well, I screwed up here, and here, so I need to get better here and here. So, after losing my last one, I'm like, well, I could see the things I did wrong. And I'm like, well, it kind of, it fuels you. You're like, I want to get better. And, you work on a lot of new things, which is fun, too, because, when you do the same thing all the time, sometimes you get a little bored, you get the rep. But when you start working on new things to improve your fight game, it makes it fun again. So I can't tell you what I'm expecting aside from a win and a freaking war. Like I said, I love to have an entertaining fight myself. I mean, even before, like, we had those kind of rules being from Feldman. We all know, like, if you pick out boxers, like, okay, yeah, Floyd Mayweather, he has a great record, this and that, but I think he's boring as shit. But guys like everybody knows Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's fucking fun to watch because he's an animal. When he goes out there, and like whether he wins or loses, he's gonna go out there and try to shut up. You know what I mean? So, while I'll never be Mike Tyson, you can still try and emulate the kill style, the aggression and all that, So, yeah, that's something you can expect. It's just an entertaining fight, for sure.
I love it. I love it. Now, we talked a lot about fighting, but before we go, what's on your current playlist right now? What are you listening to? Is it motivational speech? Is it music? Is it audiobooks? What is in the kind of a playlist of Jared Warren right now?
I listen to a lot of like 80s rock and metal. That's my go-to. Yeah, I got a pretty fun playlist, and some stuff that's probably like Skid Row, Scorpions, freaking just a lot of rowdy music. You know what I mean? I listen to it definitely while I'm working out, but a lot of times too, if I'm driving also like that, I just like listening to it. That's my go-to. You know what I mean? And I use that for my walkout sound too. My fight against Brian, I had Wild Side by Motley Crue, and I like it. I don't know. I feel not that there's anything wrong with it, but I feel like most of the walkout songs I hear from other people are typically rap a lot of times. Which everybody listens to good rap too, but it's just for me. I have a little bit of different style, so I'm kind of a rock guy myself.
No, I love that you said 80s, 80s metal and 80s music in general, because to me, is there a better decade in terms of music, right? You go punk side, you got Sex Pistols and the Ramones, right? You go rap, you got, everything from KRS-One to Run DMC and whatever. You go, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Van Halen. Led Zeppelin was still making records, towards the early part of the 80s. The Who, same, right? Every genre, Sade kind of came up through the 80s. And so, literally every facet of music, jazz, pop, music, at the same time, we had Genesis and Phil Collins and Prince, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, and Michael Jackson all fighting for the top 10 spot. At one time.
Yeah, and nobody knows how awesome that is until it's already come and gone. While I'm an 80s baby, and I may have not known that back then, but in the 90s growing up, and then in the 2000s stuff, you start to learn about some of that stuff back then, and it is, yeah, you're right, it's awesome.
It is. That's it. That's all of my stuff. I've got all the journey, and it kind of helps. My dad was a contemporary jazz musician in San Francisco, and a lot of when he would get gigs to play either at colleges or radio stations and on kind of the live whatever, as a kind of kickback, we would get Santana tapes, not CDs, but tapes and 45s and whatever. So that's the music of my youth. It's just and again, you don't know what you got until it's gone. Oh, the Eagles are doing shit. Oh man, again, I'll fucking talk about 80s music all day. That's the best, the best decade from 80, January 1st, 1980 to December 31st, 89, right? That decade. You put that against Bach, Beethoven, all that. Any genre of music, it's just you can't. The 80s were the best, 100%.
Yeah, man, you nail around the head. There's. I'm kind of that guy who's guilty of I could know all the words to so many songs for 20 years, and then I may not know the name of the band a lot of times. But then when someone's oh yeah, do you know that song? I'm well, let me hear it. I'm oh yeah, I do know that song. So I don't know all the bands by name and stuff like that, but the ones I listen to regularly, I become a huge fan of, yeah, those ones I definitely remember.
I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, Jared, there have been a lot of people, both professionally and personally, that have attributed to your success, both, again, professionally and personally. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Oh, cool, man. So yeah, so a lot of my real strong basics came from a guy named Bill Slinker. Bill Slinker, like he's probably not known as much now. I mean, the guy's in his 70s, but he's freaking. He had a whole stable of pro kickboxing world champs, back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. The guy's just like a fight mastermind. I mean, he's that guy that you want him to watch your opponent's tape, and he'll tell you exactly what you need to do. So I started with him. From there, he sent me to Eric Marshall. Eric Marshall is a pro kickboxing world champ himself. He brought me up through the amateurs a lot, trained me hard. Then when I transitioned to MMA, I had Matt Arroyo. He runs a school out here by me, a jiu-jitsu school, MMA school. He worked with me a lot. And from there, I met Jeff Bailey. Jeff Bailey also, he runs a place called Grace Clearwater out here. And so he's kind of like one of my main coaches now. He's the one who helped me get connected with BKFC. And then we got Jihad Wingfield. He's like my freaking new boxing coach. The guy's, unbelievable hands, great coach, teaching me a lot. I got ton that I can't wait to learn from this guy. Another buddy, guy named Mike Morris, he runs a place called the Muay Thai House out here. I get some good, fun, hard training. He's a firefighter also, but was a pro fighter, and he likes to coach people and stuff. So I've just been like fortunate, man. I just have that good stable of people around that likes to. Everybody knows a little something different, but everybody wants to help, So those are my coaches, man, and I've had a few good, solid sponsors since I started fighting. My two biggest ones that come to mind. There's been a lot of people who've helped me, but the biggest one there's Foil Surfboards, and another one is Signal 7 Hot Rods. They're both firefighters as well, and it's like their own little personal business, and they're kind of like, they're not huge, but they're supporting me, so it's cool. Like we got a good brotherhood going on there, so definitely want to shout out to those guys.
I love it. I love it. And being a fighter and a firefighter, it's done pretty well. I mean, look at one Stipe Miocic, who many regard him as arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time when it comes to MMA, especially in the UFC. So I'm just saying that duality, it works.
Yeah. There are two different types of intensity. You know what I mean? So it does fit well for my personality, I would say.
100%. Now, for those to get a little bit of harnessing of that personality, that intensity, where can they find Jared Warren on social media?
So for Facebook, I mean, it's just like you see it spelled at the bottom of the screen. For Instagram, which I have to be honest, I'm not super active on there, but for Instagram, it's Cap, so CAPT .dead_4. So Cap Deadpool is my fight nickname that I've had here for a little bit, and I'd be happy if anybody wants to hit me up and follow, and if you have any questions or DM, I'm happy to answer people. So whatever you need, man.
Absolutely. Well, Jared, thank you so much for spending a part of your evening with us here at According to Woods. And again, thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Jared, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was watching it before you even contacted me. That's why when you asked to come, I'm like, absolutely, I'd love to be on the show. So I appreciate you having me, man, for real.
I appreciate it. So be a badass like Jared. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe me or Jared, and I don't know why you wouldn't, well, here's Professor Zeta's egg.